Do you have a lot of independent analysts coming in? You have maybe not so unbiased. I know we all try to be unbiased, but there have been a lot of formulas trying to poke holes at where the Browns are at on this. So I'm curious, Kenny, when you're hearing Chris Ronayne kind of fire back at the Browns. Obviously, we as a radio station, and full disclosure, we are partners with the Browns. We want what's best for the Browns, but also best for the community. We want the math to work out, and we want all of us to have this a new beautiful structure either way that houses some of the biggest events that we can have, but we also don't want it to cripple the local economy. Where are you on this? Did you think Chris Ronayne made a compelling case?
Oh, of course he made a compelling case. I've followed his career here over the last decade. Of course he can make a compelling case. It's just I still stand firm that it's my belief that the leaders of the city never wanted the stadium there in the first place after a while. I think this goes back to Mayor Jackson, and I think it continues with Mayor Bibb. And I never saw any sort of thought that they were really interested in. Now I think that there's a lot. I think that Chris Ronayne is certainly interested in it, but I think some of the other stuff is kind of, well, we don't want to be known as the guys who sent the Browns out of town, so we decided to do this. I just don't believe that they've ever really the things that I've seen. I don't believe they've really wanted it. So my opinion has not changed. My mind has not changed over the stadium being in Brook Park with the roof over it and being able to bring in whatever you possibly can. I would not want the county cut out of it, but as you've stated out before last week, what did you say last week about that? Well, it saves you money, so you might as well go ahead and let them do it. However, that the news that the other two teams seem to want a update to the sin tax, that can be a concerning thing for a lot of folks out there. So this is gonna create some ins and outs, certainly with this stuff.
Yeah, this is
the best way I can put it, the nicest way I can put it.
It's obviously very complicated because we're all relying on a lot of projections, right? The Browns plan has all these projections that they say makes this financing, work out, right? The bonds, the way that the bonds are going to be financed, that it'll pay for itself with the parking. I am curious, like Ronayne said this whole thing is about the Browns being able to make out on the parking situation. And I don't know. It seems
we're doing this all over parking.
Well, that's basically
a lot of money,
what he's saying.
but
it is a lot of money, and obviously they have no control over their parking down there on the lakefront.
Yeah.
Those are existing, whether they are private ownerships or whether the city and the county is going to be reaping the benefits of that. That will not be the case with the new setup. The new setup will be the Browns will take complete control over their real estate, which we've seen other owners do. That's what the Crafts were able to do with Gillette Project. Obviously, they want to make money. I mean, there's no doubt. This isn't some magnanimous thing by the Haslams to do anything other than they want to make money.
Yeah.
But we are also supposed to get this world-class venue. Ronayne is saying that not only does the math not add up, the prices are going to go up for tickets. The PSLs are going to be something that people in this community cannot afford. And so that part of it, and then he questioned the timeline, which he says the timeline, he says they are rushing this dome in a similar way to which this stadium was rushed to get ready for Cleveland Browns football in 1999.
See, this is what's interesting to me. The timeline thing, that is something I'm not going to argue. The PSL and ticket prices issue, that's always going to go up. Now, I look at a area a lot like ours in Western New York and Buffalo, where theirs are going up, and they say they have a waiting list for them. Now, you knew that the prices were going to go up. I did find it interesting, though, listening. Like, Daryl was one of the original people who said, no, they're not getting a dome. You can't afford a dome. The people can't afford the ticket prices. It's going to be $2-some-odd billion. I mean, that was something Daryl said to us on the air a few years ago. So I found that to be interesting, where it's like, hey, if you got this quote-unquote waiting list they have up there in Buffalo for these PSLs and these ticket prices here to buy tickets to the new stadium, all right, does that carry over with us? Because I understand that, hey, the city itself, yes, there's a lot of things that have been depleted with the city itself, but the metro still seems to be strong. So who's going to be able to buy the tickets? That's one of the other questions that you would have. But again, I just kind of want to know from everybody, have they changed their mind? Were they downtown by any means necessary? And did they change to a dome or vice versa? Were they pro-dome and they're going, you know what? Let's keep it outside. Let's keep it downtown. Let's redo that. Because my feeling is if you keep it downtown and you renovate the stadium, quote unquote, we're going to be having the same conversation in 7 years. And it's going to be drug out another 3 years after that.
Well, then it gets exponentially more expensive, obviously, every year.
Yes.
When it comes to renovations, I mean, Ronade made a case that you could still renovate this and put a roof on it. I just haven't seen any kind of plausible plan for something like that. Of course, he's saying he's not seen some of the plans that incorporate, the renovations.
So we're just saying things we hope. That's my issue. That's in a lot of ways. That's what I think is so confusing to a lot of people. Is like, hey, you say what you want to. I've seen renderings and plans of what they intend to do in Brook Park. The rendering I saw in downtown, as far as a renovation, was a joke. I mean, that looked like a piece of IKEA furniture. I want to see something that's tangible. That if we're going to share it, I want to know what it is.
That was also supposedly the Browns' plan as well, though.
And I understand that. And it was it looked like a bad rendering that I would not want them to do.
Honestly, if you were trying to observe this and trying to figure it out, you would assume that the Browns tanked the renovation proposal.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because they wanted it to look bad because they wanted, by comparison, the dome to look so much better.
And I'm sure there's a possibility of that. But what I'm pointing out is I've seen what they have put together on one side of this. I've only heard words. Show me something. Show me something that is interesting that people would want to be a part of downtown. But that's where I go, I don't believe it was ever their intention. They wanted to let it go downtown or let them leave downtown. So there's a permanent sort of infrastructure. So there's housing. So there's permanent apartments. There's permanent business down there and not something you could use 10 days a year, which again, I can understand. But when we're doing this whole political football, which is a terrible thing to say, but it's true. When you're doing all this, I go, well, are we just grandstanding to grandstand? Or are we actually passionate about something like this? And I just don't believe that many of those that seem to be passionate are actually the ones. I think they don't want to be blamed for the team leaving downtown Cleveland.
Does it feel like
so
right
they want
now,
to absolve themselves of it?
Like we have this kind of drop dead date of when Mike DeWine has a chance to approve the financing through the budget bill, through this very, very big budget bill. I'm not sure. It's a state one. Does he have a name for it the way that we have the big, beautiful bill?
No idea.
Nationwide. This is a big deal. Are we rushing into this? Is Ronane right that this all seems a little bit rushed?
I'm sure to some level, because if he only got 3 more years, that does seem to put a lot of hurry up on the timeline there. But I just real quick, 216-474-0092. If you were pro-dome, anti-dome, pro-Brook Park, anti-Brook Park, have you changed your mind? Pro-downtown, anti-downtown, have you changed your mind here over the last 6 months? Especially hearing Chris Ronane, the county executive, going on with Daryl, which you can hear that 923thefan.com and on the free Odyssey app. Have you changed your mind here over this last year or 6 months about what you want for the Browns as far as the stadium's concerned? 216-474-0092. We'll get to you guys coming up. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima. We're back in 5 on the Fan. Friends, Ken Carman here for North Homestead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, North Homestead CJDR.com. It's a 2024 Jeep Compass Limited 4x4, and it comes with 0 down. That's what you're getting during the month of May. And North Homestead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, 0 down on a 2024 Jeep Compass Limited 4x4 or on a 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4. A truck I love, a truck I drive, and you can get it with 0 down. Also, you can take your pick, either or. 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xEs or a 2025 Jeep Wrangler 4xE with, yes, 0 down, both starting at just $429 a month. You got to get there because right now it's May 27th. We're running out of time. Get there now. North Homestead CJDR.com. Stop on into the showroom. See these vehicles for yourself. You're going to love them, and you're going to really love the sales experience. North Homestead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, friends, for 40 years, a place that you can count on.
Hey, everybody, it's Anthony Lima for QC Kinetics. And we know the big focus in America today is on your health, and you're determined to look beyond pills and steroids and surgery to feel your very best, right? Well, I want to talk to the person who's in pain right now, or maybe it's someone you love. You've done everything they told you to do. The pain just continues to come back and back and back. You're exhausted, but don't give up. Good news is QC Kinetics is there to the rescue. They're different. They're not quick fixes. They'll explain how their regenerative treatments take your body's own healing power and helps heal and restore your damaged tissue. QC Kinetics has helped tens of thousands of people. As a matter of fact, 97% of patients here in Cleveland have noticed improvement to their pain after finishing treatment. And I'm part of that number. 2 years ago, received a couple of treatments on my left shoulder, and I am doing better than ever, even a couple of years later. So you can say goodbye to that chronic pain once and for all and live your best life. 216-770-5488. Absolutely free consultation. Beechwood, Independence, Westlake, and Menor. 216-770-5488. That's QC Kinetics.
Hardworking people risk it all daily to build our cities, homes, and community businesses. But when accidents happen, lives are shattered in an instant. Slater & Zers understands the profound impact of catastrophic injuries. With over 32 years of experience, more than 40,000 personal injury cases handled, and over $500 million recovered for clients, our dedicated team is committed to fighting for the compensation you deserve. Have you been in a worksite accident? Call Slater & Zers today. When everything is at stake, we're the team you want in your corner.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Hey, Clevelanders, it's Anthony Lima for Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka made with real brewed tea. Surfside is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar, and no bubbles, no troubles. That's right, zero carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Heading to a game or grilling at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside, or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, sunshine in a can. Must be 21. Enjoy responsibly.
From the Kissling, Nestico, and Reddick Traffic Center, call 1-800-HURT-NOW.
This report is driven by Classic Toyota. Go to driveclassictoyota.com. Classic Toyota wants your vehicle and is offering top dollar for your car, truck, or SUV, even if you did not buy from them. Bring your vehicle to Don Rose or Kevin Boris at Classic Toyota on the Auto Campus in Menor, and they'll make you an aggressive offer. DriveClassicToyota.com.
There's a disabled vehicle on the right shoulder of 71 North and Route 82. And the intersection of Larchmere Boulevard and East 121st is closed due to police activity. This is Kayla Coljohn on 92.3 The Fan.
This report is brought to you by PSE Credit Union's 5.7% APR home equity loan. Make home improvements, take an amazing vacation, or consolidate debt with PSE Credit Union's 5.7% APR home equity loan. Visit psecreditunion.org. That's psecreditunion.org, an equal housing lender.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's sports desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
92.3 The Fan. 2020 Sports.
This 2020 Sports brought to you by KC Roofing. Is your roof 15 years or older? It might be time to start planning. Get a free instant estimate now at kcroof.net. From a hole in your roof to a whole new roof. Not the best of efforts from Guardian starter Gavin Williams last night. Allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings, walked 6. And Cleveland ends up losing to the Dodgers 7-2. Williams, and why he struggled with his command.
Just spraying the ball everywhere, all speed. It wasn't landing it for strikes, so can't really do anything if you don't land it for strikes sometimes.
Shohei Ohtani led off the game with a home run off of Williams. Second straight game Ohtani's done that. Also walked twice, scored 3 times. Guardians dropped their second straight. In the loss, Jose Ramirez extends his hitting streak to a career-high 19 games, had a pair of doubles. First rehab appearance for AAA Columbus on Monday for David Fry. He went over 4, struck out twice. Fry working on coming back from off-season elbow surgery in 3 games last week with AA Akron. Fry was just 1 of 9, but did drive in 2 runs. NBA playoffs, Western Conference Finals, Game 4, Oklahoma City, holding off Minnesota, 128-126. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, near triple-double, 40 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. Thunder now leads the series 3-1. Jalen Williams helped out. He put in 34 points. Want your voice heard but don't have time to call our shows? Send us a voice message using the microphone button while listening to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
This downtown can support a dome. If the argument for the NFL is about a dome, it can be built. I don't think we've thought big enough about south of Progressive Field. You know, I was coming down Broadway Orange today. You know, I'm looking at it, and roads are movable. There are malleable parts of that plan. You could dig right into Orange Avenue and move it to the east, and you can have your Brown Stadium right next to Progressive Field. So there's a lot of different land plays out there. And I realize to the listener, a lot of this is confusing, and some of this is just let's cut to the quick, do the first thing, the easiest thing. But I think in history, we'll look back and say, why do we do that?
Well, can't you move the roads in Brook Park?
What do you mean move the why?
Well, he's saying you can move the roads. Can't you move the roads in Brook Park too?
They don't need to.
Well, you can't move the Brook Park roads to downtown Cleveland.
Okay, so he's saying to move the roads and you can have a stadium next to Progressive Field. All right. But he's saying you can move. So are we doing more infrastructure problems or more infrastructure changes? Isn't that going to take long?
It depends how far south you're going. We got a pretty big bridge right there.
I think Ronan is saying, what is the rush here? Why all of a sudden does this need to get done? Why can't we mull over?
Your lease ends at what, the end of 29?
Yeah, I mean, can't
28?
Can't you extend those?
Well, you'd like to think so, yeah. But it doesn't seem like they all want to be together for very much longer after that, does it not?
Like, did
There's a lot of tough talk going on. I mean, we're saying each other are being bullies here.
Well, but that's the question. Did the Haslams really ever entertain doing a dome in downtown? Did they ever really consider it? And if the answer is no, because they wouldn't control the parking, then that would make them look greedy, right? So I don't know the answer. I don't know how realistic the Haslams ever truly looked at any of these other proposals. Remember, the post office was there's not enough acreage over there by the post office. That would not have been big enough.
I didn't think so.
So is there enough area? And if it's all about development, is that the only thing the Haslams were going to be gung-ho for to begin with? Was we need the real estate. We need people, also apartments, dwellings for the people, a mixed real estate in every sense of the term.
I want to get to you guys on this. Todd Derry is going to join us at 7:40 this morning, 7:40. So I want to get to you guys. 216-474-0092. Have you changed your mind on Dome or downtown Cleveland? Real quick before we go to them, I have not changed my mind. Have you changed your mind?
I think the thing that I've changed my mind on, I'd love the big, beautiful Dome. I would love it. I want to know that we've truly exhausted all the different avenues here. Like, why can't we have the Dome downtown? I haven't really heard the Browns. They've just said, well, it's not feasible in these other locations. Really, though? Is it true? Or is it that they'd be more headaches? You'd have to coerce more current landowners out of their property. That costs money. Like, I'd like to hear the Haslams just be honest about that and say that. And then I'd be like, okay, well, they're being strong-armed or whatever. But it does feel right now like we could put a pause on this. That's the one thing I think Ronan kind of sold me on.
All right, let me get to Tony in Mansfield. Tony, you're first up on the Fan. Hello.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Hi, Tony. We're doing well. Go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of like three phases of this. One, we can put a pause on it, just kind of like whatever the term, like the rush. But I don't know, are the Haslams, like we've talked about, developing the lakefront for how many years and nothing's ever happened. So I'm wondering if the Haslams, really feel like they have a partnership with the city of Cleveland where there's actually going to be some progression if the city's serious about this as well, or if they're just done with it and that's why the whole Brook Park took place and now they're trying to rush it. So that's one, like stadium downtown, would that work? And then they talked about, renovating the existing stadium and putting a roof on it. And that's just where just with my experience, and I don't know how that would ever happen. You'd have to basically tear down the stadium and start from the ground up. Being a union construction worker for 15 years, I've talked to a bunch of old heads that worked on that stadium, and just the structural integrity from the foundation and concrete standpoint, it was feasible with the way it was constructed and the way it was rushed. So I don't know how that would work. One, like I said, with the existing stadium, don't see that plausible with continuing renovating that. But then two, do we have a partnership with the city of Cleveland that actually wants to progress and move forward? And I think that's the biggest headache we've had for the past 10, 15 years with getting something done. There's been a million proposals and plans, but nothing's ever happened. So I'm wondering if the Haslam's are just done with it.
Tony, thank you very much for the call. I think they're just done with it. I think that his question is right. I think that they're done with it. How long was that land? 176 acres or whatever it is, right? How many acres is that?
Out at the Ford plant?
Yeah. 176. How long has that been available? How long has that been for sale?
Well, when did the plant close? They had to find another use for it.
I'm asking questions you really wouldn't know right off the top of your head.
Well,
but
that's not all Ford plant, right? They had to also go in and
So
get some surrounding stuff.
I imagine at the very beginning it was. We've all talked about how the stadium. Good God, we were talking about this when Randy Lerner owned the team. That the stadium's not as great as what you'd think it is. They built it in a rush. This, that, and the other. Okay, then they own the team. The Haslam's own the team. You knew this conversation was going to happen. I believe there probably were conversations about a stadium downtown. As time goes on, I think they just decided to hell with it. We're going to buy that land out there. I think they probably had their eye on that land for a while. But if anybody else was going to buy it, that's it. And they decided to buy it. Once you buy the land, it's like, well, who else? If the land was for sale for such a long time, do we guarantee that anybody else is going to buy the land? So now you're stuck with 176 acres of what you're trying to buy. So now it's hey, we're going to go on our own right. Correct me if I'm wrong, please do.
The ultimate hope was that you'd get manufacturing back there. That was the ultimate hope, because that brings the most benefits, I think, to everybody involved, because, once that goes awry, now we're talking about all sorts of subsidies.
Yeah, I understand
talking
that.
about taxpayer stuff that, the sweetheart deal for the Haslams, which I imagine that's part of the reason they would have been enticed to go there. The one thing I don't want, though, and I'm telling you, I'm hearing a lot of this. I'm hearing a lot of this from people that call and on social media. They want the city to be, they're like, well, the city had their time to do this and they didn't, so let's screw the city. Guys, you don't want to screw the city. Screwing the city just out of being mad at bad leadership, that doesn't help. That does not help the region.
They could always put something downtown that they have, to me, I think they've probably wanted to do for a while, and I hope that would work out. I don't want them to be punitively taken care of because of this. I don't want anything bad to happen there. It's just not. It's not going to be good for anybody.
Yeah, that just because you didn't like certain leadership or certain people that were involved in city council that dragged their feet on whatever. You're right. The punitive nature of that just is going to serve to screw things in this community, I think, even further. So don't do that just to be vindictive.
I've watched the Oakland situation where this is basically in so many ways kind of like that, where a team is going to leave and go across the bay like the Warriors did. The Raiders went to Las Vegas, the A's or they're in Sacramento. Whoever knows if they'll ever get to Las Vegas or not. We'll see. That's an odyssey in its own right. But they were very staunch and bye. The mayor, the city, everything was very staunch in letting all of them go. And they said they wanted something more permanent, something that involves everybody more, something that's going to make more money over time. And I think that's a great laid plan. Now, there are people who are very critical of that. Well, I also think it's foolish for me to shoot those arrows at the city right now, where this is something that we're not going to know for 10 to 15 years of whether or not that works. So if I were to say that about the city of Oakland, well, hold on. Let's see where that mayor's at on this and what this city is at on this in 10 to 15 years. Well, the same thing has to apply for Justin Bibb in the city of Cleveland. So if they put something there that, okay, yeah, you have permanent business now with people living in and around it, not just a flip up retail strip mall that all of a sudden has a bunch of empty signs in front of it all of a sudden. I mean, something that's real and tangible there, then great. But I won't know that for a decade. Because they got to tear the thing down and then they got to build the thing, and they're going to be playing in there for another 3 years. So it's going to be about 15 years before we know any of this and whether or not it really works. But I think that's what the city has wanted. I don't know if I'll still be on the air in 10 to 15 years or anybody will care what I think of it or if they care now. But I'll let them know in 10 to 15 years what we'll all let each other know what we think of it. Because then there will be some return or, in Chris Ronane's words, some other boondoggle that we're worried about. Here, Chris Ronane, county executive, almost said county commissioner, county executive, 923thefan.com, spent, an hour with Daryl over the weekend? Him and Chris Harsh from the Cleveland City Council person. They were both in studio with Daryl about the stadium. Have you changed your mind? Has anybody flip-flopped over what they want to do with the stadium?
I think
if you were pro-dome, are you anti-dome? If you were anti-dome, are you pro-dome now?
I would love a dome. I want to make sure that we've exhausted every avenue.
Oh, we're exhausting. It's exhausting. All right.
I want to make sure that we've exhausted every potential avenue in downtown Cleveland, because I get it from a negotiating standpoint. A lot of the stuff that's being said and the harshly worded letters in between the two. And especially
this
what we heard this
downtown
weekend.
can support a dome. If the argument for the NFL is about a dome, it can be built. I don't think we've thought big enough about south of Progressive Field. I was coming down Broadway Orange today. I'm looking at it, and roads are movable. There are malleable parts of that plan. You could dig right into Orange Avenue and move it to the east, and you can have your Brown Stadium right next to Progressive Field. So there's a lot of different land plays out there. And I realize to the listener, a lot of this is confusing, and some of this is just let's cut to the quick, do the first thing, the easiest thing. But I think in history, we'll look back and say, why do we do that?
Will we really look back in history and say, why on earth do we do that?
We will.
Not on earth, I guess.
We will in one way.
Okay, what?
If this math is completely bogus. And what Ronayne said was the independent group, I forgot the name of the group that went over the finances of this deal. They said, this doesn't add up at all. And in fact, especially if some of the politics change, where he brought up one gubernatorial candidate is talking about getting rid of the income tax altogether, then the math definitely won't add up. Then we're going to be at a deficit, and they're going to have to go into the capital fund to be able to do this, which is something the current governor says absolutely not. Why would we subsidize the stadiums to this extent? So I will say, the Browns have to really prove that this is going to work financially, or we're all going to have to pay a bill. This is all going to be something we're going to be paying off, if that's the case. And I do think, by the way, that is the responsibility of the Browns to prove all that stuff. And do you feel that they have to this point? There are a lot of people that do not think this stuff adds up.
216-474-0092. But you're still, if you don't get, what I'm asking is, if you don't get your satisfaction to the exhaustive levels of what you want, but you're still pro-dome, is there something that's going to ever make you go, you know what? No, I don't want this. This is a loser. I want to keep him by the lakefront.
At the very least, I don't know. I don't understand the urgency. It has to be done right this instant.
That's
when these two sides, a lease can always be extended.
I understand that a lease can always be extended.
I do not buy the deadline of that lease. The Browns need a place to play football. And if they don't get the funding that they want by next month,
I know
June is when it happens.
I know
that Mike DeWine is going to be offered this once it's passed.
But I'm telling you what everybody...
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
If it doesn't get passed, Haslam said, well, we'll either have to go back to the drawing board or go back to the renovation stuff. No, this should not be the end of the discussion over the next 3 weeks. We do not have that kind of an urgency, I don't believe. I think there are a bunch of people saying there's urgency because they want a deal done.
I've done some number research, Anthony.
Yeah.
There are currently 9 domes in the NFL. I'm not counting the Superdome. That's 10th dome. But it's 50 years old, so I didn't put that in my numbers. Everything else was built between 99 and now. Just doing the averages, I'm not going to read them all off, but it comes out to 1,118 days if you average out the 9, right? Which means when I put it into this calculator, if they break ground July 1st of 2026, it'll be opened in time for the start of the 2029 season. So we still have a year away from when they would have to break ground and to move into a dome when this lease is up.
What I think
we're still a year out, but I know they've set this. The governor set the deadline of this June, right? For money to talk about this.
Yes, this particular
iteration.
plan.
I think the people in charge want to. I don't think they really want the Browns downtown. All right, maybe Chris Ronayne does.
It really sounds like Chris Ronayne does not want this Brook Park thing to materialize at all.
I think the mayor and
he
his
wants
team
them downtown more than the people who are in charge of downtown want them.
Yes. You know what? That's a great. I think he works downtown, but I think that's about all he has in common with some of those folks. I think that a lot of them do not want it. And what I think is what would happen here, and this is why I'm trying to say it, why they're in a hurry. I don't think the Browns want to play in any other stadium other than either their stadium that they're playing in right now until the time comes for their dome. I don't think they want to play in Akron. I don't think they want to play in Columbus. You are not going to get 102,000 people sitting there. It's going to look weird. There's going to be a lot of things that have to happen. I don't think they want to play an hour and a half away with their players. I don't think they want to do anything like that. I don't know if there's any other place that they can play in. Are you going to put them in Tom Benson for a couple of years? Are we going to do something like they did with the Chargers? when they played in the soccer stadium for a couple of seasons before SoFi was done? Are they going to do something like that? Like, I don't think that they want to do that. I don't think they want to address that. Or are they going to play in their soccer stadium that they have down there, lower.com field? I don't think they want to do any of those things. I think they want to play in their new stadium. And I think that the city wants to not have some holdover extended lease. I think they want to go, okay, you're done. Good. We're done here. The moment the Browns season ends for good in that year, that's when the wrecking balls come in. They want that stadium down, and they want to start work on whatever project that they want to get moving on. Because I think that they have plans with different entities, or they're trying to come together with plans with different entities that they want to sell that space to, that they want to bring in there, and another year changes all that. Another year after that can change all that. So that's why I think that they're moving so quickly here.
Does it matter to you that all the polling we've seen on this shows that the people that have taken part in these polls,
of course it does,
in the region do not support
of course
a move
it does.
to Brook Park?
But I think that some of that might be because the Browns are a 3-14 team.
Sure.
And I feel that for a lot of people, it's almost like a reward for a team that hasn't done well, where they can't vote on it. You've said it many times. What's done is done. Now it's left up to the financing of this.
Yeah, we've been left out of the process completely.
Do you believe if they were 14-3 instead of 3-14, it would be 60% against, or do you think it would be 60% for? If they were a 14-3 football team, would it be something that people would be down with?
Probably more support, unless I will say, unless you had like tangible outside playoff games where the weather has helped the Browns. Then I think a bunch of people would say, why would we move and take away that advantage? But there's been simply no advantage to playing outside for the Browns over all this time.
That's kind of what I'm highlighting there. I
see another concern for Ronayne that he brought up was how much already over budget the Buffalo Stadium is, and that's not a dome, but it's already like $800 million over budget.
Wouldn't that be another reason why they want to move quickly on this? Prices or costs are always going to go up.
Yeah, but then if they don't think the math works for the current price tag, who's going to make up for $800 million the overage? Like, where's that money coming from? Would the Haslams?
I would have to imagine.
Would the Haslams agree to that they will take care out of their pocket for any of that?
That might be a sticking point.
I would have
to imagine that they would have to.
What construction project is on budget? What percentage?
And on time.